Hey, and welcome back to Modern World History. Today we're going to look further at the Muslim empires we're discussing in this unit, and we're going to take a little look at the Safavid Empire. So, right here off the bat, I've got that the Safavid Empire is the result of a cultural blending, a diffusion of culture from all sorts of places, including Persia, the Arabs, and the Ottomans. Now, keep in mind that when we talk about Persia, we're looking at the place that is modern Iran. Okay, modern day Iran. And I know what you're thinking. Oh, wait a second. Iran's in the Middle East. They're Arabs. No, Arabs are from Arabia, the Arabic peninsula. You have Arabs that have diffused into other places like North Africa, for example. But not everyone in the Middle East, although they may be Muslim, many of them, they're not all Muslim. One, they're also not all ethnically Arab. So just wanted to make sure I showed you guys that. And so when we're talking about Persia, and I have it over here as well, we're looking at modern day Iran. When we look at Arabs, we're looking at, I've got MENA written here, Middle East, and North Africa, as I just kind of indicated. The Arabs have diffused with the expansion of the Muslim faith, in particular Sunni Islam mainly. And their language also went with them. So a lot of these places speak Arabic as a language, or even as a lingua franca, which is kind of like a second language, or a language that they might have in common with most people in that region. And then finally, we talked about the Ottomans in Anatolia, which is where modern day Turkey is. Anatolia is the geographic feature of the peninsula. Turkey is the name of the political unit. The country of Turkey lies on the geographic feature of Anatolia. So that's the relationship there. A little bit of geography for you. So the Safavids, there were four main causes of this cultural blending that occurred here. And really, a lot of it is centered on geography. You got migration all throughout the area. You've got many people seeking religious freedoms from places around them. You've got a lot of trade. Anytime there's trade, there's also going to be an exchange of ideas. All right, so it doesn't just mean exchange of goods. It's an exchange of ideas, which is a huge part of the diffusion process. Remember, we talked about diffusion. It can be cultural diffusion as well. And so the Safavids, also conquest. All right, also conquest. The Safavids are an example of all of these things, but they also, as a group of people, valued a strong military for protection on the east and the west. So look at our chart, look at our map. You've got the Ottoman Empire over here, right? You've got the Mughal Empire over here. Here's the one we're going to talk about in the next session. And then the Safavid Empire is really all this, in the center where modern day Iran is, all the way up to the, basically the border of Iraq around the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. So the Safavid Empire is going to be right between the powerful Ottoman Empire we've already discussed and the powerful Mughal Empire that we are yet to discuss. In order to be strong and survive and not get conquered or taken over, they have to rely on a strong military. Now, another thing, too, that they have to do is be strong, because even though they're Muslim, the Ottomans are Sunnis and the Safavids are Shia, and there's a difference there. Now, there's not as much difference as you might think, but they believe different things about who should have succeeded the Prophet Muhammad as the leader of Islam. And as petty as that may sound, even today, Iran and Saudi Arabia, who is the primary Islamic country in the Middle East, on the Sunni side, they do not get along at all, even though overwhelmingly they believe the same things religiously. In a lot of ways, it's more of a political division than anything else. Ismail is going to be a 12-year-old when he becomes the leader of the Safavid Empire in 1499. In only 2 years, he was able to conquer everything that is modern-day Iran. He also took the title of Shah, which is kind of like king, or I want to say that the word comes from the word czar. I hope that I'm right in telling you that. But anyway, it's a title that they used to call themselves king. So it meant king. right? And he also instilled Shia Islam over the places where he conquered. Now, here's the thing, as my boy, he wouldn't like everyone else we talked about so far. I mean, if you didn't turn into a Shia Muslim, you're gonna die. Okay, and so he forced conversion over his subjects. Sometimes you get somebody who are nice, and sometimes you don't. Sometimes it works out, and sometimes it don't. He also was able to defeat the Ottomans at the Battle of Chaldiran, and established the border between the two. Not so weirdly, it's still the border between Iran and Iraq today. So, and really, there is some blending between Shia and Sunni there in Iraq. So even though I want to say most people in Iraq today are still Shia, it's almost half and half. About 60 Shia, about 40 Sunni in Iraq. But the geographic border between the two countries goes back to this battle in the early 1500s. And then finally, I know I'm going to say this wrong. Tamaps. Okay, sorry about my terrible pronunciation of these words. He was Ismail's son and would continue to do conquest until the height of the empire. Now, like all good things, this guy come to an end, right? And we can't just have this never-ending age of these empires gaining power. So Shah Abbas in 1587, this here is when you've got the golden age of the empire. So things have gotten about as good as they're going to get. There are also going to be reforms. Okay, so there once again we're looking at making it better. We're making it better. He had two armies. One of them were an army of ethnic Persians. The other one was an army of conquered people, kind of like with the Janissaries that we looked at, or the other group of soldiers here that were the Christian slaves from the people that they conquered. They also used artillery. Now, when we talk about artillery, guys, we're looking at guns. We might have been talking about cannons at the time. All right. Not anything like artillery today, but still, when used well in battle, it can be a major game changer. And so they used artillery successfully. They had a merit-based government. Anything that's merit-based means that you got there on the basis of you were good at what you did, not so much on the basis of who your daddy was. And so they have merit-based government, which means that their government was more efficiently run. They also punished corruption with death. So if you were stealing money, or if you were being corrupt, or if you were trying to seek political power for self-gain, you were going to die. Which meant, again, a more efficiently run government. I wouldn't want to be in political office if I thought that my whole motivation was selfish, and I ended up getting killed for that. He also attracted Europeans by being religiously tolerant. And when we say attracted Europeans in the 1500s, they were, we're talking about the Renaissance movement. We're talking about they were doing fairly well off even after that. They've got good weapons. They've got good goods and other kinds of things like that they can do trade with, and they can learn from, they can buy weapons from. And so by attracting Europeans, you're going to help yourself economically and militarily. There's also a new capital, Esfahan, and it was known as the most beautiful city. It attracted huge amounts of art and culture from all over the world. Truly a place to behold. The arts, beautiful arts of all kinds. There were paintings. There were glass. There was pottery, calligraphy. When we talk about calligraphy, we're talking about a form of beautiful artistic writing. You may be thinking that you're looking at calligraphy right now. And then you may be thinking, what in the world? Or we could say writing. I know, handwriting's not the best. And then you also have carpets. A massive demand for Persian carpets in the West. And so even today, you might hear about Persian rugs or Persian carpets. And even today, they are still known as some of the best and really ornate, almost like pattern type works of art. At first, they reflected more Persian themes. Over time, carpet makers were sent to study the Renaissance under Raphael, of all people. And they also bring back some of that with them as well. So even the carpets that we consider so unique of the Persian culture are kind of like a hodgepodge blending of many different new artistic and cultural ideas from all over the world. Unfortunately, the empire is going to decline after Abbas. They learned a dumb Ottoman technique. Okay, when I say dumb Ottoman techniques, the Ottoman Empire did this as well. I didn't mention in the previous video, but for some reason, these people started to kill or blind, literally pluck the eyes out of potential heirs because they felt like their heirs were a threat to their leadership. And so rather than lead their kids, for example, to be strong rulers, they would literally try to stop them from ever taking the throne by killing them or blinding them, which obviously means that your next ruler is going to be completely stupid or not have any idea why he's doing it or just kind of winging it. And by 747, the empire completely fell apart, which brings us to the end of the Safavid Empire and brings us to the next of our Muslim empires in our subject of study, the Mughals.